We'd like to talk today about the ongoing amount of prejudice and one-sided argument that's going on in the country today and in the world, really. You have some warning signs to watch out for when people try to make an argument, whether it's anti-Semitism, anti-racism, uh, anti-wokeism, or whatever, to watch out for.
Yeah, I think if we are alert to some of the strategies or techniques, and we all use them, so it's not a case of good guys and bad guys, and if we find we're using them, we want to just stop. There's a conspiracy frame, a template. Any problem, just insert Jews as the hidden cause, or Muslims as the hidden cause. For example, the stock market is crashing. It's the Jews' fault. It's the Muslims' fault. It's the blacks' fault. It's the Haitian. Culture wars, obviously, the Haitians are doing something out there. The villain is always the same, regardless of the problem. So you have a discussion with someone and they keep bringing up, well, it, it's their fault. And regardless, it can't really be that the same group can be faulted for everything in the known universe. Um, Real analysis changes its answer based on evidence. But the market crash can do with greed. It can do with one of the seven deadly sins and not a specific group or a person. So let's watch out for this conspiracy frame where the hated group is always inserted regardless of what the problem is. Is it a pattern the person's bringing up, or is there actual evidence of something? And if there's no evidence, nothing analytical, then they're using a template on you. And we want to watch out because they're going to blame the group they hate: Democrats, Republicans, women, children, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Doesn't matter. Watch for it.
Now, there's been a lot of tools in support of that. Like, I know it's the Jews because they always do this. I know it's the Jews because they've always done that.
Well, there's something like a double standard, and you hold the particular group you're going to attack, whether it's Jews or Muslims or anybody else, to a standard that no one else is holding to. And you you expect you say, "Oh, look, Jews are successful. They must be doing something wrong. Blacks get all the credit. That's because of the laws." Um, and it keeps going and going and going. And the any achievement the person has turns into some type of a conspiracy. Like you said, well, they did this, so therefore they must be doing this now. Would you say that about other people or other groups, or are there other explanations out there?
There are natural athletic abilities, there are natural, and people who study and work hard will do better at something. So that's not a prejudice, that's an observation. But when you start using that to rationalize that there's a reason and it's unfair, that doesn't make any sense.
Now, one of my favorites is cherry picking, Joe. And another way is decontextualized quotes, which is really hard for me to say. It's cherry picking. You pull a quote from the Talmud, from the Quran, from anything, but you don't take the whole quote. You don't put it in historic context. You just take the lines that you need and you say, see? And the quote can be real because it's out of context. And you just leave out the B part of the verse, or you leave out the A part of the verse in scripture, or you pick four words in the middle. What really makes it work is the quote is real, but you're misquoting it because you're not telling what came before, what came after, the historic context, who wrote it, who it was written for. There's a whole things going on. And it's not evidence, it's a prop, but we hear it all the time. You know, the Novites, you hear that that's one way the TV stations and the radio stations get our attention. They quote two or three words that a candidate said, and turns out to be out of context. So it's not just used in terms of hate, everybody's using it. And we really want to put a flag on that one, Joe, and keep it up front. We want to watch for quoting out of context or saying three words as if that's the sum total of the belief. If you want, Joe, I can prove anything you want from the Quran, from Hebrew scripture, Greek scripture, the Veda. I can take anything and you tell me what you want me to prove from scripture, and I'll cherry pick what you need. Of course, it's all false, but it'll be all from the sources.
And I think there's another one that you mentioned when we were talking before going online that you said was the most exhausting one. Was that the moving goalpost, you called it?
Yes, yes, that's really tiring. You set up a standard, and then when the Jew or the black or the Hispanic fulfill it, you then move the goal so that they have to do something else. You see, whatever the group does, it's wrong. So if they're making money or they're taking care of themselves, then you have to come up with another criticism so that they haven't fulfilled anything. So it keeps moving. Well, the Jews have all the power, and that's dangerous. Jews Jews have no power. Um, that's irrelevant.
You give women the vote and the country will fall to pieces.
Yes. And then when women get the vote, you say, see, we gave them the vote and they're destroying the country by fixing one past makeup law. You create something else so that the goal can never be fulfilled, the moving goal. And that's what makes it exhausting because whatever you say, the group, it did something, they got jobs. Well, they're abusing them. They got them because they were special. You just keep moving the goal so that they can never be fulfilled. And it's really tiring.
And what we see is this backlash where a hidden group of silent people eventually build up their numbers, and then come one election where these guys have sufficient pull with a representative that has no compunction against saying whatever pops into his head or making outlandish statements, then the group of people who've been silent up until now rush forward saying, yeah, that's what I was saying. Why give women the vote? The Jews really are behind all these things. We should get rid of all the Muslims and all the other foreigners trying to get into the country and make it one country just for the people who are already there. What do we do about that? How do we say that's ridiculous? Don't you realize that's ridiculous?
Well, there's something called eternal guilt, and that's very effective in carrying out what you're talking about, Joe. Whether it's real or invented, you find something that group did, and then you apply it to every member of that group alive today. There's no expiration date. So if there was crime committed by Haitians, blacks, Muslims, or Jews 100 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, doesn't matter. You're only going to attribute it to the group you're attacking. And you can find something that everyone's ancestor did. And then you're going to blame not their descendants, because you don't know who the descendants are, but you're going to say, whoever it is. So if I'm against Jews, I'm going to blame the Jews for something that happened in the Middle Ages, real or imagined. I'm going to blame the Jews for something that happened biblically, real or imagined.
Well, Rabbi, how do you argue with somebody who thinks like that?
We have to stop for a minute and not argue, because if we argue, we're going to be fighting them on their terms. And there's no way you're going to convince someone that believes that immigrants are raping and pillaging like a bunch of Vikings. There's no way. So we have to make some decisions, Joe. In our mind, it clicks. This person is trying to pin guilt on this minority group. Do I want to change the subject? Do I want to invite them to have a coffee? But under no circumstances do we want to argue point on point, because that's not going to work, because we now realize that they're using this to trick us and trap us. And so each one of us has to come up with a choice and our own strategy. Just being aware that they're trying to suck us in to argue with them. And so David, when he faced Goliath, they put armor on David, and he walked around and he said, I can't wear this. I can't fight with this. I only know how to fight with a sling. David refused to fight Goliath on Goliath's terms with full body armor. He fought with what he knew. So you have to be a David. How are you going to counter this with what you know without using their strategy and without arguing directly?
Well, Rabbi, as we both sadly are aware, prejudice is not something that's going to go away anytime soon, and it's not easily countered by anything except intelligent thought and open minds. And how much of that is lying around these days?
Let's watch out for these frames of thinking, conspiracy frame, a double standard, cherry picking quotes out of context, moving the goalpost, and this idea of pinning eternal guilt on some group. Listen for them, and when you hear them, stop and say, I'm not going to fight a Goliath. I'm not going to fight on their terms. I have to think, what can I do that David would do? And it may mean just getting a coffee.